I started getting like openly, publicly shamed because of my weight gain. We got in the van and we were driving to Flushing. Daniel Lee, his brother, Rebecca Parker was there, and then the deacon that I worked with, and then another deaconess. While we're in the van, Daniel Lee decides to announce this trip to Korea that's coming up. And we're all like, oh, wow, amazing. You know, like everybody, that's like the most coveted thing in the church because you're going to go meet Mother. He starts hyping it up and we're all like, wow, oh my gosh, amazing. And he's like, yeah, but you're not going, Cory. And I was like, okay, you know, I didn't expect anything. And he's like, don't you want to know why? And I was like, sure, Pastor. Why? And he's like, because you're too fat. Just like that. And I just got silent because I could not believe what was happening. And you're in shock because you don't even understand what's happening. And everybody else got quiet because it's like a shocking moment. Like, did he just say that to her? And I kind of looked out of the corner of my eye and Rebecca just looked down. Everybody just looked down. Nobody looked at me. And he was like, yeah, look at you. Imagine you going to Korea. What are they going to say to me about how are you going to let your members look like this? How does she start looking like that? Imagine you in all the pictures. He just started going in the pictures next to Heavenly Mother. Everybody will look at you and not her. You'll de-glorify God with the way you look and just bring shame on the East Coast and all this stuff, just hurling it at me. It was totally unwarranted. I did not ask to go. I didn't expect going. All I was doing was trying my best at this thing. I gave up everything for that, and he just started like ripping into me about the way I looked. But I just sat there silently because there's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do. And nobody's gonna step in and say anything. So I just said okay, you know, like, yeah. And he's like, you understand, right? And I was like, yes, Pastor. And then he finally stopped and I just sat there. I was in the back, so then the tears just started rolling like silently. So I just sat there like just praying. I just want to go home. You know, at that point I'm like, I just want to go home. I've always tried to mask things with humor because that is my coping mechanism. Just laughing through the pain is just the only way I know how to handle it. So I quickly outwardly recovered before we got to Flushing because, you know, you can't be hurt in front of people because then you have no faith. So we get to Flushing and I'm like, all right, let me just try to have a good time in Zion with the brothers and sisters. Like, we don't ever get to go to other churches. So I had never been to Flushing anyways. So this was just a new experience in general. You know, when Daniel Lee comes anywhere, that's another thing. It's like a whole event. I remember when he used to come to Maryland and we would have these like banquets prepared. Like one time we all dressed up, like there was like a group of sisters that dressed up as like actual servants with like big metal trays to like bring the food and set up the table all fancy because, you know, he's the prophet. He's coming. Like he's served like a god. So we all go to sit down and he starts talking and everyone's quiet, you know, because that was like a thing. He would speak and everyone would be really quiet and then we'd say, wow, amazing. And it could be like the most unremarkable thing. Anything he said and you just have to be like, whoa, you know, like we're there. I'm not eating because I was traumatized. Like I think I put some fruit on my plate and I maybe think I ate a grape or something. I didn't want to eat in front of him. I didn't want him seeing me with food. We're sitting there and then he decides to announce the trip to Korea again. And I felt my body go like rigid because at this point it had just traumatized me in general. And he starts explaining about the trip to Korea. Then one sister who's heavier also, I guess, she raised her hand and she was like, Pastor, you told me that the next trip to Korea I could go. Can I go on this trip too? And he was like, you? Like in a disgusted type of look. He was like, you? Why don't you ask Cory why she's not going? And this was in front of the church of Flushing was there. I froze. And he was like, Cory, tell them why you're not going to Korea. I looked at him like, please don't make me do this. Like I knew what he was asking me to do. I was basically begging him with my eyes, like, are you serious? Like you really, this is what you're doing right now? And I looked over at Rebecca, my group leader, like, is this happening? And she didn't look at me. And he was like, stand up, like, tell them why you're not going. So I stood up in front of the church and I told them all I was not allowed to go to Korea and I was not going to Korea because I was too fat. And I tried to say it with with whatever dignity looks like in that moment. and tried to be a good example. Like, I didn't even know what to say. I didn't know how to say it. I was also, like, in my mind trying to cover him even in that moment. Like, I recognized that this was not gonna make him look good. And I was always constantly afraid of even that. I have to somehow cover this behavior. So I tried to play it off like this was okay, like, type of thing. The other really messed up part about it is that I really loved him. I admired him. I wanted him to, like, see me. I wanted his approval naturally. This was my pastor. This was this man that was supposed to be leading me, you know, spiritually and all this, and then I gave up everything for this church and this place, and I really believed in the doctrine too. Like, there was nothing anybody could ever say to me to leave. Like, I didn't leave because of the doctrine. It actually took me, I didn't have any issues with the doctrine until I left, because I didn't know they were lying about it, even, like, all those books that Ahnsahnghong wrote and the changes. Like, I didn't know anything about that. It was because of this treatment, and it was, like, unwarranted. Like, I had never done anything to him other than try to fulfill, like, the goals of the church, and that's what I think hurts the most too, is, like, this person that I know that's also, like, the abusive thing too, like, where you know, feel like you love the person and, you know, like, you care about him and whatever. Like, it's so obvious now, but
Stockholm syndrome of some sort.
Yeah, I felt like that with John Casas for a long time too. Like, I would defend that man to the day die. And now I look back on it and I'm like, he's the same as Daniel Lee. Like, the way he used to scream at me in Maryland, like, he'd get in your face, like, screaming. And I look at it now and I think it is a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, because I loved both of them. I never ate another piece of food in front of him. I stopped eating in the church, and then I lost 100 pounds after all of this because I was so traumatized. I was like, there were other things too that happened. Like, he didn't want me performing because he didn't want me on stage because I was too fat. And he once even, like, suggested somebody replace me, and I would sing in the background, like, behind the scenes in the microphone, and he'd have a skinnier white sister up front lip syncing. Like, he suggested that once, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, he never actually went through with it, but that was how, like, obsessed he was with my weight.
Well, he wanted to utilize your skill for singing, keep you backstage, hidden from the audience, and have some other sister he found to be more pretty on stage for a church event.
Yes.
And pretend to be you, and pretend to have your voice.
Yes. Yeah, it was like he had this obsession with my weight. I don't know why. It just really pissed him off that I was big. And he let me know about it constantly. I was very hurt by it.